Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Conquer the Clutter podcast for May the 22nd. We are going to talk about criticism and developing confidence in our communication, how to represent ourselves and how to be heard. All right. But most importantly, from the inside of our reaction to having to do this. So I want to do a little bit of a review, however, because a good deal of what we're going to talk about has to do with anxiety. And just to do a short recap on anxiety and the forms it takes and what we need to remember so that we don't in advance disable ourselves with anxiety and the hormonal rush, the runaway train that can create for our system. If our system isn't working, we're at a disadvantage. So let's remind ourselves of what we covered last week. All right, a little bit of it anyway. Anxiety is a fact of life. It happens to all of us. It is not a measure of your capability or how clever you are or how sound you are in mind and body. There is going to come a situation that gets ahead of you, and no matter how profoundly capable you are, and you all are, it's going to get the better of you at some point in some way. So let's just accept that. It comes, though, in many forms. It doesn't always look like the same thing. And the other thing is, it also comes not because of your capability or incapability in different intensities, right? It can be mild. It can just be that little bit of anxiousness. It can be bring you to a grinding halt as well, all right? So another thing to remember is that even though it is not the best feeling thing, we are not feeling our most capable, we feel at a disadvantage, we feel uneasy. It's actually healthy in small doses. The trick is don't let it get so far out ahead of you that it is like, I said before, a runaway train. The other thing to remember too is that when it comes up in you, it's actually doing you a favor so long as you don't let it get too extreme. Now, last week we talked about ways to talk ourselves down, and I want everybody, as soon as that podcast gets posted, I want you to memorize it, because those questions are the best way in the field, in real life, in the moment, to take back your life from whatever anxiety is headed your way. All right. Another thing to remember is that when it rears its ugly head and you've got the reins on it, it actually is a signal. You want to pay attention to it because it motivates us to act. All right. The only problem with anxiety is when we aren't ready and it becomes excessive. Okay. Now, when and if that happens, just go back to your questions. All right. Because it's time to make changes, and they are the best handle you have. When the rubber hits the road, those are your best strategies for getting a jump on the jump anxiety is putting on you. All forms of anxiety aren't the same, all right? It could be a full-out panic disorder, for instance. Now, hopefully it never has to get to that point. But if it does, it will probably happen a little bit of a creeping feeling and then sudden, all right? It's uncomfortable. We know what the symptoms are. We covered that last week, and those symptoms leave us, if we're not ready, all right, if we don't use the tools that are at our hand, it feels like it will never end. It's in charge by that time, okay? So, some of those symptoms, all right, feel like an attack. And strange and frightening symptoms will occur. Agoraphobia, all right, is a form of anxiety. And it's an extreme fear of being stuck in a situation. Has anybody out there ever experienced agoraphobia? It's that feeling where you don't want to go out, all right? You want to stay in that controlled environment that feels safe, all right? And we feel like we can't escape, all right? When agoraphobia sets in, we're confined. Another form of anxiety I want to remind you of is generalized anxiety disorder, all right? And that's where worry about can be a wide range of things, all right, sets in. Now, most of the time, even if the worries are resolved, by the time that GAD, generalized anxiety, is present and you aren't reaching for the handles to control it with those questions, there's a conveyor belt of new worries that will follow, all right? The last form of anxiety that I want to talk to you about today briefly is social anxiety, more to remind you of it, all right? Now, not surprisingly, it's a fear of social situations. It would be with social anxiety, right? So it's where there is a worry or a panic about social situations. It could even involve going to work, all right? And especially where the anticipation exists of meeting unfamiliar people or unfavorable people, all right? And we're going to talk about the unfavorable people today and communication with them. And heaven forbid, the dreaded task of having to communicate, especially making small talk or facing those difficult conversations, all right? The different conditions, though, can look different, and we're not going to review the strategy of cognitive restructuring, which is what the main thrust of last week was. Go back to the previous podcast when it's posted. But remember, take this one to the bank, all right? Using cognitive restructuring skills that we covered last week in depth will help you overcome anxiety, all right? Because they have been proven, all right, to be very, very effective. And they respect the uniqueness of you. That's the thing. They are a set of questions, but you tailor it to you. That's why it works, right? So, did anyone after last podcast in any way alter their beliefs about anxiety? Does it still feel like that dreaded fog that moves in and it's completely beyond your ability to turn the fan on and blow it away, or at least handle it to minimize it? Did anybody change? Can you put a hand up or a whatever signal if anybody actually benefited from last week? Okay, well, that's great. All right. So the other thing I want to remind you of today, all right, is talk and listening is not enough. Nothing gets better without acting on it. So another idea I want to explore today, as I said before, about anxiety, it involves anxiety, can also be about criticism of ourselves, by ourselves, all right, or by others, or the perceived fear and anticipation that somehow you're not good enough or you're not something enough, all right? And our capability to handle the challenges, all right? That is another way that anxiety can set in and just sort of linger in the wings. All right. So the other thing that anxiety about communication, all right, involves is there anybody here who is absolutely not in any relationship with anyone at all? You are alone in the universe. Anybody? No hands went up. Okay. So what that means is that sooner or later, communication is going to be required. And as soon as communication is going to be required, there is going to be not a meeting of the minds, because you're different, your needs are different, your requests will be different from somebody at some point in time, right? If only that wasn't true. All right, life would be like sailing. However, it is true. And so when communication gets difficult, anxiety, all right, can kind of take the wind out of your sails a bit by upstream coming to that communication, that anticipated difficult communication, with concern or insecurity. Now, what I want to do by the end of next week is help you build your capacity to feel more confident, to be more confident when it involves criticism before it happens. All right, before it happens. We don't want cleanup in aisle 11. We want to get away from cleanup in aisle 11. We want to avoid having any cleanup in aisle 11 by being more confidently prepared, especially when it involves criticism or the perceived feeling of criticism. In a healthy relationship, people can talk about their needs. If you can't talk about your needs using some of the strategies we're going to talk about today, earth to you, you're not in a healthy relationship with that person, or you're not in a healthy relationship enough with yourself that you feel entitled to have your needs and to express them, and at least to a reasonable degree, have the other person consider how they can accommodate those needs. Not perfectly, but good enough. All right. And when you talk about your needs, all right, you can give and receive less than positive communication without feeling threatened or rejected. All right. So today and next week, it's all about you. And you're entitled to focus on all about you and how you express authentically in the moment, even when it's difficult, who you are at that moment. And expect to have it be factored into, not 100% met necessarily, but factored into well enough what happens. Right? And you don't, when you have to negotiate that, right, in that moment, in that time frame, you're not feeling threatened. You're not feeling at risk. You understand you're in a negotiation of communication. Now, unfortunately, with the hormones that rage through us when we feel the heebie-jeebies, all right, sometimes that does not put us in a position where we're very good at telling others when we would like to change something. Sometimes we would like to duck for the wings, right? Rather than have to breach or broach that conversation. However, that conversation is going to come up sooner or later. Sometime it might as well be now. There's no time like the present, all right? So what we're really doing when we negotiate, or when we're kind of dealing with what could feel like some form of criticism, is we're trying to change or improve, hopefully, the way we relate with that person. All right. But first, we need to practice relating with ourselves. And generally, the reason that negotiation is necessary is we're a little worried that they will resent us, that somehow by expressing our need, our wish, we're taking something away from them. We're depriving them of something. We're not. All right. Or how many people here feel that when they think about doing that, their biggest concern is that they'll be rejected, right? Not just denied the need, but you will be rejected and now you'll be alone, all right? So without getting anxious or angry, we may also find it hard to process, like while we're receiving the information, to process that perceived criticism, even when it's offered positively. Quite often, we don't feel it like it's a warm fuzzy, all right? We don't feel it like it's an intellectual exchange. We feel it right to our nerve, all right? However, if we can get a handle on our feelings, we can more positively word what our request or our expectation is respectfully, all right? So, and that increases the likelihood that it won't feel like a threat to them or to us, and that we will increase the probability of acceptance, right? This is where assertiveness comes in as a handy skill. You ever heard of the word assertiveness? When was the last time you practiced assertiveness? All right. When our behavior is assertive, what we're really doing, we're not denying anybody anything, we're not threatening, we're not depriving, we're not, and it's not a negative thing. We're just representing our wants and needs, while at the same time, and this is important to include, respecting the other person's wants and needs. This is a negotiation. This is a win-win. You're negotiating a win-win, even though it feels like your palms are sweaty while you're doing it. All right? Keep that in mind. And you're also respecting the relationship at whatever level it exists that you share with that other. All right? Assertiveness is also about choosing your mindset that supports communicating and developing an increasingly healthy relationship. You want to come out of this with a firmer base to the existing relationship based on mutual respect. Mutual respect can only happen if there is mutual listening. All right? And not take the easy way out by kind of deking a bit or putting up with anybody else deking around respectful, honest communication. We're going to talk a little bit now about different forms of deking. All right. Deking and dodging. All right. Passive aggressive. All right. Is a behavior choice. All right. And it exists in great numbers. Passive behavior is when people put the other person's needs before their own. Don't give away the farm as you're negotiating. All right? Don't put the other person's needs before your own. They are equal. All right? So when someone's being passive, you're not buying favor. You can't buy a relationship. All right? And when you set yourself up to be someone who is perceived as doing what they're told, or allowing others to tell them that their needs or opinions are wrong or inconvenient, all right? When you act passively, you're not representing yourself. You're choosing passivity, all right, as a buyout for criticism, all right? It's a way to avoid. You're not going to accomplish anything that you can borrow against later or that really supports this relationship, even if it's not a great relationship. That's not to say it can't be better and sounder. And that is always based on the truth, respectful truth, your truth balanced with their truth. All right. So sometimes when you adopt, now watch yourself. I want you to kind of really monitor, go back in your memory and think, have I ever done this? All right. Passive is when you're tempted to automatically agree. And you get the lump in your throat and you think you're going to choke, you can't quite breathe, and you agree to change your behavior. And you do it to either please the other person or to avoid conflict or having to move forward with a more sound adult outcome. All right. You don't stop to consider whether the feedback you're giving and you're receiving is helpful or true. That helpful or true. Going to get you further, going to get the other person further. No, that's not on the books. All right. And neither is the fact, because you're not being honest. You're not really telling them who you are. And you're allowed to be different. Today, I'm hoping, today things happen that tomorrow you are in some way a different person. You have learned something, you've practiced something, you've done something, you've considered something, you've practiced something, you've practiced something, you've practiced something. Oh, am I repeating myself? All right, so adopting a passive approach tends to leave you in one position only, and that is to agree, okay, with whoever says that you don't matter, you don't have to be listened to, you don't have to be considered, and by the way, you're wrong. All right, there's something wrong. You didn't even get it out. You just sold the farm, you gave it away right away. All right, so nobody is better off. Now, the following beliefs go along with those people who settle for being a passive communicator. You are not a passive person. You are choosing, it's a choice. You are choosing to be a passive communicator. It's a choice, people. All right. What you're basically saying, all right, tacitly, even if you're not saying it out loud, is other people know more than you do. You should listen to them. If someone criticizes you, finds fault, and that is also by not even listening. The other person, if you cave and you opt for passive because you feel overwhelmed, that person who doesn't want to take advantage, all right, is somebody who would say, yeah, but what do you want? Yeah, but what do you need? Yeah, but what about you? All right. If someone criticizes you or disregards you, it means that you're inadequate. You don't matter. Your ideas and your thoughts are probably wrong. They haven't even been expressed. How can they be wrong? All right. So I shouldn't express them. How many people here, when they're broaching a difficult conversation, all right, feel like they just want to avoid it? Okay, we can do it mañana, mañana, mañana. Okay, yeah, that's natural. I do that sometimes, okay? But then I catch myself very quickly and thinking, what have you got after that? So what have you got after that? You've got the same thing that needs resolution, right? only now it's older. It's more settled. It's firmer. It's sort of like the Jell-O that has set, right? The Jell-O that has set doesn't pour and morph. You have to do something, okay? So is there anybody here who thinks that by representing themselves, you feel it? Now, maybe you don't think it intellectually, but you feel like if you express your needs, somehow you're being an egotist. You're being selfish. You're being arrogant, like you matter more. No, you're not. You need to put on the table what the truth is so that it can be considered. You're not coming away from that table with 100%. Don't expect that. But you're coming away from that table, that negotiation, with enough that that other person knows you a little better and also understands that at a minimum, they need to listen and they need to consider. You're not being arrogant. And it isn't rude, all right, to stand up for your needs. Now, an aggressive behavior communicator, all right, is like Gangadun and the Gangading and the gangbusters, all right? So they take the whole, there's no air for anybody else. There's no time for anybody else. Aggressive communicators, and you know them very quickly, all right, are expressing their beliefs and their desires, and they're doing it at your expense, all right? And they're doing it in a way that it isn't just a feeling, it is a perception. So it's registering up here that they believe they are more entitled. Whatever they want, their beliefs, their desires, their outcomes should come first, right? And if they believe someone's trying to get in their way or actually require, not request, but require equal time, it's a competition for their wants and needs, all right? And then they up their game. All right. Now, aggressive communicators aren't always violent. Sometimes they're just sneaky. All right. All right. They often find subtle ways to intimidate you. If you feel intimidated, that is not the same thing as coming into a conversation feeling nervous. All right. You know when you're being intimidated because you have a feeling of invasion. Yeah, but what about me? Yeah, but what about, well, and you know bodily you have a reaction. It's sort of like a, you back up a little, right? Okay, that's not the same as feeling insecure. Insecure is you're on your spot and you're just a little bit shaky, having a little bit of a hard time thinking exactly what you want to say. So they intimidate others. They do it by verbal aggression, all right? Or they can use emotional abuse, making you feel sorry for them, telling you all the things that are wrong in their life, that you should put them first. All right. If they're still standing, all right, and nobody has called the paramedics, this is an equal discussion. Now, if somebody's reaching for oxygen to apply oxygen to the person, that's a different story. All right. But that's not what's happening here. So when you find yourself outside of your perception of what your beliefs are, what your needs are in the moment, and you've gone over to the other side, buying on for feeling sorry or buying on for feeling, sometimes it's not that kind of feel sorry for me. Sometimes it's that, well, you just don't know the truth. Here's the way, here are the facts. All right. When somebody's pulling out the facts, facts rarely matter where feelings are concerned. All right. You're talking about something that you have a right to, and they have a right to. So watch out for manipulation. When an aggressive person's being criticized, usually right away, right out of the gate, they dismiss the feedback immediately. All right. Just don't even consider it. All right. Or in considering it, they become angry. Okay. Because they see criticism. You've got an aggressive communicator. They see criticism as an insult and also a threat to their identity. The part of their identity we call the ego. My entitled self is my ego. All right. Your entitled self is your ego. All right. Not a good place to be. Definitely not a place to stay, and definitely not a place to negotiate from. Here are some beliefs that are fundamental to aggressive communication. Just be aware of them. If you tick the box, even if you like the person, even if you respect the person, that's probably what they're doing. Okay, and that's not fair play. Other people should listen to me because my opinions and my needs are more important than yours, because I'm either more needy or I'm more informed. How's that for equality? Not. Being angry or intimidating is the only way to get respect. So they probably major in this, all right? And it doesn't matter what other people think or feel, right? I want what I want, and I'm determined to get it. In fact, I'm determined to get as much of it as I can possibly intimidate you into allowing me to have. And here's the bottom line, though, people. It's coming at your expense. All right? You're not coming out of this feeling good. All right? Another kind of communicator, these are cagey. All right? Passive aggressive communicators. Have you ever met a passive aggressive person? Boy, it is like trying to pick up a greased pig. All right? Impossible. Passive aggressive people often appear compliant on the surface. All right? But their behavior demonstrates that they aren't satisfied with the situation and they are about to attempt to sabotage it. All right? Now, they do that as a form of revenge because passive aggressive people believe that they are more entitled. All right? And they're just worth more. And and when you request something, it's at their cost, right? And just to demonstrate how unfair or unhappy they are, a passive aggressive person might agree to what you say, but then they don't deliver and they leave you holding the bag. All right. They might try to reinvent some of the basis, some of the criteria for your wants and needs. They might try to talk you out of, gently, of course, even by agreeing with you, sympathizing with you, but showing you how wrong you are. All right. That there's something wrong with you if you need that. All right. So sometimes it's just plain and simple. They take on a job and then they don't do it. All right. Or they do such a bad job of it, it is deliberate if you're passive aggressive, that you'll never ask them again. Okay. Now, a passive aggressive person may not agree when someone criticizes them. And if they don't agree, they might say so, but use sarcasm. So just, sarcasm is that slap that nobody wants to take ownership of. All right. That's what sarcasm is. All right. Now, or a passive aggressive person, watch out for them, might pretend to agree, but with some critical feedback. All right. Some critical feedback for you, and then deliberately ignore everything that's happened, everything that's been discussed. So here are some passive aggressive beliefs. If I was to be honest, that's just too risky. All right. Like confrontation and dealing with fact and honesty, too risky. I stand a higher chance of losing and I want to come out on top. So I have to use less than honest strategies to get my own way. Passive aggressive, it's all about getting their own way. But With a passive aggressive person, they feel it's unsafe to stand up for themselves, all right, and be honest, because you can't be trusted, all right? You can't be trusted. Other people can't tell me what to do, all right? And this is my way to basically disable any kind of negotiation. And I don't really care who you are, and I don't really care what you need, because it comes at my expense. It's all about winning, right? Spot them early, remember them. Okay, assertive communication, all right, and an assertive person is honest, all right? They're not entitled. They understand this is what they want, this is what they believe they need, but they're willing to negotiate because they try to balance their needs and the other person's needs. All right. An assertive communicator wouldn't let the other person sacrifice themselves. They'd be the person who would say, okay, but what about you? How does that feel? Can that work for you? Is that going to cost you anything that you can't afford personally, psychologically, emotionally, time-wise? I want you to be, in the end, I want both of us feeling okay about this. All right? Because an assertive communicator knows that they can't always get what they want. All right? But they believe, and their behavior, it's not just talk, their behavior is in standing up for their own rights, but also the other person's, without any kind of manipulation, without any kind of intimidation. When an assertive person receives criticism or negative feedback, they take a step back and they evaluate it. How true is that? And you know what? At some level, sometimes it takes a little while for the, oh yeah, to pass. But you think that about me? You think that's what I'm doing? And you think about it, but sometimes they think about it, or they do think about it, to say, okay, not what I intended. That's not the impression I intended. But you know what? Can I trust this person? All right. Because if it's true, it's helpful for me to know I'm not coming across as I intend and want to come across. And before responding, they may or may not act on the criticism, but at least they will. I love this expression. Please remember it. Put yourself on pause. Give yourself time to consider. Now, while you're on pause considering, here's another thing to factor in. Not all opinions are equal. Informed opinions count for more. All right. So, depending on the source and whether you think it's true or it could be true, or you know what? I trust this person enough that I would want to maybe check with other people to see, when I do that, when I say that, when I da da da, is there any part of that that comes across this way? All right, you check it out. All right. So, assertive people, nobody has 100% healthy self-esteem. And in the moment of a challenge, all right, we're going back and forth on that measure. All right. And so healthy self-esteem doesn't allow itself to be threatened. It does allow itself to be challenged. And think about, okay. And generally that feedback, it's feedback, okay. All right. Either comes in the form of negative feedback, or it feels like negative feedback at the moment. All right. Now, typical beliefs of assertive communicators are, I am as important as anybody else. but I am no more important than anybody else. All right. And this is one that a lot of people have to work on. And I am worthy of being treated with respect, all right, and consideration, whether I'm right or whether I'm wrong. I don't become more worthy because the facts support me. I'm not trying to win. I'm just trying to have my needs factor into this situation. All right. Just like I would be on guard for anybody else's right to have their needs be factored in. I can handle, I don't look forward to them. Sometimes I have to prepare for them in the front of a mirror. Sometimes I have to get my nerve up, but I can handle difficult situations and discussions because I know that they may be the best way to come out with long-standing best results. And my sense of self-worth, okay, even when I'm not too proud about myself, or I'm not happy, or I'm not 100% confident, it doesn't depend on, all right, what anyone else thinks or says about me. I know who I am. I know what I'm trying to be. And if I miss the mark, I'm sorry. I will do whatever the change is that's necessary to get what I'm aiming for, being and representing better the next time. All right. And I can, and I will heal from hurts. I will survive. I deserve to survive, even if survival means I have to do a little bit of work on myself. The question is, how can we become more assertive? All right. We do that. We need to identify the mental blocks. You know, last week we talked about the 11 problematic thinking styles. Do you go to any of those? Okay. And if you question yourself, go back to that podcast. It'll be posted soon if it isn't already, and go over them. Do I hide in all or nothing thinking? Do I hide in filtering? Do I hide in? All right. Because those mental blocks they feel sometimes like safety valves, like a way not to take the full wind of a situation. So if they're familiar places you go, all right, they're not good, because it's like that mirror in the circus, you know, those mental filters, those 11 problematic thinking styles, they put a little wow in your perception, all right? And it makes it more difficult for you to assert your rights. You need to develop practical techniques that improve communication skills. So, starting with, make a decision today. What kind of communicator are you right now? Where do you go first? And what kind of communicator do you want to be? And what needs to happen? What do you need to do to close that gap? Okay. How would you describe your communication style when the conversation gets difficult, or you anticipate that it will be difficult? We can mix two styles, all right? Using different styles depending on who you're talking to. We can do that. It's probably not a good thing, though. Just keep it clean. We might find it easy to be assertive at work, but when the relationship is more challenging, maybe we're more likely to be passive when disagreeing with somebody, all right? Or when challenging our beliefs about our right to be assertive. How do you feel when you picture yourself as an assertive person? Does it feel better? Does it feel safer? All right. What would it take? What would it take for you to opt for assertive communication? To know that even if the other person disagrees, it's not the end of the world. All right. You know them a little better and you protect yourself by knowing that you are discussing fairly, you're discussing honestly. You're not responsible for the other person's response or their reaction. So stop trying to manage it. Now, the only time that's not true is if anybody out there is in an abusive situation, all right, and you would be at risk, then you manage it and you get out and you get help. And I would want to know that. I would want to know if any of the people who come here to this podcast, you can just send me a text message. All right. Let me know you need help. Okay. So lots of us carry around unhelpful beliefs about what it means to be assertive. So, and unless you take a really close look at those beliefs, it'll be hard for you to continue making progress. Here are a few of the most common negative beliefs that go along with alternative thoughts and beliefs about what being assertive really means. All right. Anybody here think that when you're assertive, you're actually bullying? You're taking advantage. Anybody? I see a lot of them. Shake. Good. Bullies aren't assertive people. They're aggressive. Being assertive is about balance, balancing and respecting other people's wishes and beliefs along with your own. If I'm assertive, all right, does anybody here believe I'll drive everyone away? No one will like me. No one will deal with me if I'm assertive. If you're assertive and other people back up, well, that's a good thing. That's actually a good thing because now they have something to consider. All right. And after the podcast next week, which will be recorded, I'm going to go through different ways to deal with communication. All right. So that you have a really good kind of formula for knowing how to be assertive, when to be assertive, and how to stay assertive. Okay. You're not going to drive anyone away. If they have to back up, then they have some things to consider. Confident, friendly people will respect you. People who will not take advantage of you, all right, will respect you. All right. You actually increase your reputation as somebody who's fair and equitable. If I'm assertive, all right, you are not being impolite. All right. You're not being impolite. You're not taking anything from anybody. Men and women over the years, from the past, and certainly my past, yes, there were ladylike things and unladylike things. There were gentlemanly things and ungentlemanly things. So we were taught, and it hangs on, all right, to some degree, from a very early age, that it's wrong to be assertive. I did not grow up in an assertive environment. Chances are you didn't grow up in an assertive, a good, for its time, healthy, supportive, validating, but not assertive. All right. Now, in our home, we were allowed to say anything, no swear words. We were allowed to say anything. All right. So long as we were not blaming or picking on the other person, we could say anything. Might not get you much, but you were allowed to say it. All right. You were allowed to say it. Okay. So That's somewhere on the continuum, maybe, of assertive, right? So it's not wrong to be assertive. It's actually good in the long run to be assertive, because if you get what you need out of life, enough of it, you've got more, you've got a better quality of life, but you also are a really good example and support for other people. When you're dealing with them, you can help other people learn that they don't have to collide through life. All right. They don't have to manipulate through life. They can just be clean, sound communicators. And you'll get enough of what you want and need out of life. Okay. So over the years, we always kind of were in awe of other people who were assertive, right? But did that mean because we looked up to them that we felt our needs didn't matter as much? Is there anybody here today who can say that when they think about their needs, no matter how minimal they are, no matter how minor they are, okay, or major, they don't matter as much as somebody else's? Does anybody actually believe that? That it's a good thing to trade off? Somehow it's like playing poker, all right? And you're going to bluff, all right? Or you're going to deal. Anybody here feel that their needs just, everybody else is entitled more than you are? I don't see any nods, thank heavens. Okay. All right. An alternative thought is everyone has basic needs, people. And everyone, right down to my dogs, all right, living things, have a right to be heard. Maybe not agreed with, but also to have their needs and enough of their wants that are manageable to be respected. That includes me. That includes every one of you. Consider right now, take a second in the 5 minutes we have, a practical way to become more assertive. What would be one thing of what we talked about today that you could and are ready to start practicing that will make you one step more assertive communicator? What would be one thing? Okay. Here's one thing. Okay. Start saying no more often. Okay. Start saying no more often. Start saying, I hear you. I have to think about that. I can't commit right now. I have to think about that. Or I can't commit right now. I need to think about that. I'd like to come back and have us talk about what that would look like when the rubber hits the road in action. But I need to think about what I can honestly commit to. How many people here would call themselves, under duress or not, a people pleaser? Hello. Start saying no more often. Start saying, I can't commit right now. I need to go away and think about that. I'll come back. Can we set a time to talk about this later when I've had a chance to think about what I can honestly commit to? Okay. What does it give you to be a people pleaser? They don't like you anymore. People are not liked anymore. That's been proven. All right. Because they're people pleasers. You don't have to be a pain in the neck either. It doesn't have to be one extreme or the other. How often are you saying yes when really your needs are very different? What would it be like to say, okay, I hear you suggesting that. How would that work with my need for this? Could you think about that? I'll think about what you've told me, and we'll come back and put our heads together and come up with a compromise. That's a good way around people pleasing. Raise the flag, people. Raise the flag. I will not be a people pleaser. I count not more than you, but I count equal to you. And if you want that from me, how would that work with this that I need? And you're not taking advantage, all right, of, oh, they want something. Now it's a chance for me to get 3 steps ahead. That's not what this is about. It's about, yeah, but if I did that, that means that I have to either do this actively or do without this. What would the impact be? Maybe I could see a little bit of that, but maybe I can't see a lot of that. That would impact my life. How would that impact my life? Have you even given yourself the right to go on pause and think about it? Here's a really great word, and I'm going to encourage you to use it a whole lot more often. Somebody says something or they suggest something, and you really honestly listen. You're not pretending, all right? And you go, interesting. Interesting. Let me think about that. Buy time, put yourself on pause. Okay? What does it cost you to be a people pleaser? What do you end up with? Do you tend to go along with what everyone else wants, or are there just particular people who it's just easier to cave than stand your ground? And when you don't stand your ground, all right, do you ever feel resentful later? And is that a price? Is that a fair and equitable price? Try practicing how to decline requests and invitations to consider things, to do things that you don't want to accept. Okay? Instead, try something like, thank you for thinking of me and asking me to be part of that. But you know what? I have to say no this time. I'm just not available. I can't make myself available. Also understand, here's a real doozy, all right? Has anybody ever considered that no is actually a complete answer? No. No is a complete answer in its own right. If someone doesn't respect your preference, know that it's not your fault or your problem, okay? Other people's boundaries, as well as their own needs and preferences, that belongs to them. At least you know it when they express it, even if they express it inappropriately or manipulatively. Here's a well-known strategy. Use I statements. Okay? I statements, all right, give you a sound, helpful way to deal with tense situations. Start the sentence with I. I hear you. I need, acknowledge the other person. I hear you. I hear you. I need, I feel, I would like this instead, or as well as. Here's another one. Keep it simple. Don't be going off in your mind thinking of a reason that's good enough. Keep statements simple and to the point. All right. An example might be you're being asked to do something and say, and if it's something that you are even mildly interested in doing, you can say, that would work. I have to leave by, or I can only, and say it right out of the gate. All right. Simple assertion. I'll consider it. However, don't say but. However, I would have to, it would be in this context. Okay. I statements are also helpful and useful for explaining how you feel. It's okay to say somebody really does a doozy. All right. And you say, right now I feel angry. And you can extend those I statements to show sympathy or empathy for somebody else's position. While I understand you're upset, but right now I feel angry. However, right now I feel angry. Never mind the but. But's a habit. Okay. All right. Remember this. But is a body part. It is not a connector in communication. All right. I understand you don't like having dinner earlier in the evening. All right. But I don't want to I need not to be digesting my dinner at 3 o'clock in the morning because we ate late. So what would you suggest the answer to that? The solution to that would be watch your body language, your posture, and your voice make a big difference. Then the more nervous you feel, the quieter but assertive and deeper your voice is. Okay. Do not be like me at that birthday party with the 75-pound python. I sounded like a bag of squirrels. I was so nervous. All right. I told you about that last week. Okay. So lower your voice, stay calm, and breathe. All right. Makes a big difference, not just to how it gets communicated, makes a big difference to how you feel inside yourself, as well as how others see you. If you're seated, keep your arms and legs uncrossed. Watch the automatic body response. Closure. Keep hands down, legs uncrossed. All right. Sit up straight. Keep your shoulders just loosen up your shoulders. All right. Keep the tone of your voice even. And no matter what the other person says, give it your level best not to raise your voice and shout. Okay. If you can appear, despite the storm that's going on inside you, if you can appear calm and assertive, all right, by the cadence of your voice, the speed you're talking, all right, others will take you more seriously. In part because it's easier to listen to you. It's easier to hear when the tone of your voice and the speed of your speaking increases. People lose the ability to really extract what you're saying. They're now focused on the emotion. Okay. Okay. Now, or I won't say that. The water torture. It just keeps going. Okay. So try this. I read this in a book. I think it's brilliant. All right. Use the broken record technique. When someone tries to overpower you in a discussion, if someone tries to either overwhelm you or overload you with objections and arguments and they're rephrasing, they're trying to change the platform, they repeat, they just keep repeating your original response. Still a no. Persistent people may ask the same question. Now, that persistence is part of aggression, right? It's part of manipulation too. They're going to wear you down. No, they're not. Just inside yourself, no, they're not. If it was no the first time, it is 10 times no the 10th time. All right? Just keep saying it. Doesn't change anything though. The same question, they repeat, but even the densest of people, all right, even the most determined of people will get the message eventually. This isn't working. Just keep repeating it. Or when you've had enough and you feel that you're being manipulated, all right, or cornered, just say, there is no merit in repeating this. It's not something that I can agree with. We'll have to find another solution that meets both our needs. If you stand by your answer and don't allow yourself to be railroaded or sidetracked, just keep repeating it. Now, if all of this is interesting, all right, what I'm going to suggest is if this feels like something you need to learn to do, is there anybody in your life who you really feel is an assertive role model? Is there anybody who kind of does this? They've learned. They probably don't do it naturally. They've had to learn it probably, all right? If you're trying to change your behavior, all right, watch them carefully. What do they do? All right? Now, here's the next thing. I'm going to continue because we have just a little bit more, and then that will mean that next week you get a holiday. Focus on the behavior, not the character of the person. All right? Because it's the behavior. This behavior is not the sum total of the person. All right? But it's the behavior that's the problem. When asking someone to do something differently, if you want to ask someone to change their behavior, state their observable behavior. It isn't helpful when you yell. It isn't helpful when you repeat the same thing. If I can't say yes right away, I can't say yes later on. All right, we need to find a different solution that respects both of our needs. Tell them how it affects you, right? Say, this isn't helpful. Tell them how you would prefer them. If you could go away and consider, or we both go away and consider what is possible, because this isn't, we probably will come back with a better outcome. We'll be able to come up with a better answer for this. So I think what both of us need right now is a break. All right. They keep going, outline the consequences. Whatever chance there is of a negotiation decreases the more I feel somebody is disrespecting the fact that at this point for me, it's a no. All right. The next step is to assert consequences. If we go away and take a break now and consider what might work, that isn't exactly what we've told each other we need, has a little compromise in it, it's possible we could come up with something. But if we keep banging away at this, we're just going to build hard feelings with one another. because nobody wins. Don't say because I'm losing, because nobody wins. All right. So stay calm. Keep to the point. Say what you mean. Here, write this one down. Say what you mean and mean what you say. Stay polite. All right. Stay just exactly who you are, not how your feelings are pushing you forward to feel and be. You know who you are. This other person's determination doesn't change that. If it's a no, it's a no. Okay? Right. And don't force yourself to be assertive if you are in an unsafe situation. All right? You do what you need to do to get out of that situation, and you call for help. Okay, everyone. You have a great week. I'm off to Alberta for till the 5th of June, but I will see you. I think the 6th of June is the next Wednesday. So I will see you the Wednesday I get back. You take care. I'll be thinking of you. I will miss you next week. Take care. And when this is posted, go over last week's and memorize it. All right. Take care, everybody. Have a great one.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Have a good trip.
Thank you.